So this is going to be a quick look at CSS and how it applies to things, but I think it's really important that we start by looking at HTML block and inline elements. So there's two key, big types of elements that we have, right? And that is a block element and an inline element. We're going to start with the inline because I think that's more intuitive. So when we have a inline thing, like we want to make text bold using the B tag, or emphasize it using the I tag, or we have a link, so that A tag we just talked about in the links video, so that's our links. They all can sit within a paragraph, within a header, within a list even. They can sit within other objects, but I can't put a paragraph in a heading. All right, I can't just go and cut this and pop it in here and expect everything to be kumbaya, if you will. I expect everything to work, because if I refresh, that didn't work. That didn't work at all. So if I'm going to take this back, I'm going to put this back here. Okay, save and refresh, and that looks a bit better. Okay, why didn't it work? Well, because the paragraph is a good example of a block element. Okay, vertically, and there's some exceptions when we start using CSS later, but in general, a block paragraph is going to take up all the vertical space. Okay, I'm going to use an example on, well, let's just mess around with my Year 12's assignment, okay? I'm going to take this high school, the Aberfoyle Park High School logo. I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to use the top and bottom wrapping, right? Now, you can see here that this image, the text is above it, and it's below it. And if I resize it, it's not going to go around the image. It's just going to go above and below. And that's kind of what our block tags are doing. A paragraph in HTML, or a heading or what have you, is not going to be able to take another paragraph inside it, or a heading or something like that, but it will happily have something like a link. So I can cut this link here that I made, and then I can add it to the end of this paragraph. And so if I make this full screen, you can see it's a rather long line, but you can see it's all in the one paragraph, and so it should all really end up on the one line if there's enough space. So if I go and open this up now, you can see it's all on the same line, and the link's still there. It still works. If I click on this, it's going to open up to my YouTube channel. So that's the difference. This link here is an inline, which means it can be in the same line as other tags, whereas these paragraphs, they can have inline elements in them, like a link, but they can't, they are themselves their own block. They take up all of the space, left and right of them. Okay. It's a fairly tricky concept. If you need a hand, please ask me and we'll go through it. It will, I think, make a bit more sense when you start playing around with CSS. So when we're looking to play around with CSS, the really important things that we need to know are like our divs and our spans. And so this is kind of the embodiment of the block and inline types of items. A div element is an area, it's like a group, okay? So if I go in here and I want to put this all together, oh, I don't want to do that, but I want to put all this together, what I can do is I can put it in a div, okay? Now I'm going to select that, and I'm going to put it at the bottom. So now what I've gone and done is, if I use my tabs to align this, I've grouped these all together. So now, if I wanted to say, and this is where CSS comes into it again, you know, at the moment, what does this look like? We've got This is just all default font, okay? But maybe I don't like that. Maybe I want all of this in here, not this here, but this here, to be Verdana type font. So we know that this font family is the key that we're going to be looking for, and we're going to say style is equal to, I'm going to put font family in there, and I'm going to say Verdana. Ooh, if I can spell Verdana properly. So this style is going to apply to this div, okay? And now, oh, whoopsies, there we go. If I save and reset, there we go. Look at that. That's Verdana font now. But let's say I actually don't want that. Let's say maybe I want and monkeys in this list. Let's see how we go with that. But let's say I wanted that a different font. Maybe I wanted it to be, what was the font we had for headings? This one here, okay? Now, I can't just close my list item tag and make a new one, because that's going to give me a new list item. So what I need to use is something called a span. So this span, I'm just going to drag that to the end there. If I enclose this in a span, I can apply CSS to just this text that is inside the span, like I did with the text that's inside the div. So now we go style equals, and I'm just going to paste that in there. And I've saved the file, and now I'm going to open it up again, restart, and we can see there that it's coming out in the same font that we had this heading in, albeit it's a little smaller and it's not as bold because it's not bolded, but that span is doing all that work for us. And that's really, really useful. It's even more useful when we get into talking about the IDs, okay? So when we add an ID attribute to something, or a class, but we'll get into classes in a minute, we can refer to it in our style sheet. But I'm going to leave it there, just with the simple overview of block, inline, elements, and their grouping kind of representations. So the block for grouping, the block group is a div, and the span is used inline, so inline with other things. Okay.